So here I am in work and I'll show you what I'm wearing. So I am going non-surgical route. The great news is that when I saw orthopedics last Tuesday, so a week past on Tuesday, I am good. My ends of my tendons are touching and I'm going to allow this to heal naturally. So right now I'm in a wedged boot. So inside here, this is an air cast boot and I have got a 30-degree wedge on right now. Now, for the first 3 weeks of the injury, I'll be at 30 degrees. And then from next Thursday, I start to reduce those wedges down. Now, your rehabilitation, your orthopedics department of your hospital, or maybe it's physiotherapy you're seeing, you'll usually go and see them, I would imagine, every week, and they will reduce that down. Given my job, given that I'm used to doing this, given the nature of my knowledge, I'm able to do this for myself. But generally, you would be seeing MSK Podiatrist or physiotherapy to facilitate this for you. So right now, I am fully weight bearing on this. You can see crutches are nowhere to be seen. Now that might give some of you like, oh my goodness, I'm still using crutches. So the way that I'm rehabbing this, I'm in the air cast boot. I'm unable to dorsiflex through my ankle. I don't really have a rocker or anything on this, so it is a wee bit awkward to walk in, but it is doable. You can see I'm fairly mobile. I'm able to move about. I'm able to totally work with patients, but I've got a few things that help me do that. So the first thing is my even up. So if you're in an air cast boot, which regardless of whether you're doing the surgical option or like myself, letting it do the natural non-surgical way, you're going to be in something where you'll be either still on crutches with some sort of boot. The old-fashioned way of having you casted long-term is long past, so you shouldn't still be in a cast at this point. So if you are, make sure you question why you are. So there may be a reason for that. So it might be something surgically that they want you in a cast, but generally you would be out of a cast by week 2. Just like me, I was out of the cast within 5 days. So essentially, and the cast really, I should reiterate on this, the cast really was just almost like a first aid before I got to see orthopedics, who could then put me into the boot. The first problem you've got when you're on your air cast boot, irrespective of whether this is partial weight bearing or full weight bearing. Generally now with research, we're on full weight bearing. As you can see, I can balance on my leg, I can move about fairly freely. I was fit, active and healthy before I did this, so it's more just annoying, to be honest, than anything else. This air boot stays on 100% of the time. I sleep with this on. The only time I take this off is hygiene. I'm showering, and other than that, it's on. And it's tight on, and I'm restricted, and that's where I want to be for the next 3 weeks. The biggest hurdle is that it's adding about a whole 5 inches. So if I just use this chair so I'm not silly and have an accident, and I'll take my shoe off, I'll show you the first hurdle that you're going to have to overcome. And I'll show you what I'm using. So have a look at this height difference, right? There's 5-6 inches of a difference here. If you were just wearing your normal trainer and walking about, think about how you're ambulating, think about the other joints, think about the knees, the hyperextension through the knees here, the loads going through that side. I've got a hip replacement on this left side. Very much want to keep that intact. It's only 2 years post-surgery with that. The whole, think about your pelvis, that my left pelvis would be down, my right pelvis would be up. I'm almost giving myself a scoliosis. It would be horrific for your overall musculoskeletal health, long-term, stomping about like that. So really, really important that we even up. So this is a little gadget that I was able to get from fairly easily on Amazon, and it's called Even Up. The links to all of these, I should say, are down below in the comments, so please go and nab them. I think this was about 20 quid, and essentially it comes, so if I show you, it comes with these varying degrees of height that you need, and essentially just goes on your shoe. So I'll take it off and show you. So there's my Hoka. If you don't have a pair of Hokas, Hokas are great trainers. So what I've got in here is this. Now I'll break it all down for you and show you exactly. So the first thing is the shoe that you're wearing. As a podiatrist myself, talk about this day in, day out. Your shoes are vital. So first thing is that you want your shoe to be wide enough to fit your foot, and you want, if you need any kind of support. So these are great. Hoka, this is the Bondi 7 range, or the Bondi 8. I would recommend Bondi 7 or Bondi 8 are great, good shoes. The thing that these are great for, and I do this all the time with my patient, is I've got an orthotic in here. Now, this orthotic I already had because of the hip surgery that I had. I had a slight leg length discrepancy anyway, and I needed a little bit of a deep heel cut to control my calcaneus movement, so my heel movement, and a little bit of help with propulsion, so a medial wedge. This has also helped in this process as well. It's keeping control of my calcaneus. So it might be worth your while, if you're watching this and you've done this injury, actually booking in to see a good MSK podiatrist that can help you through this. Okay, so if you're not local to Glasgow, you don't need to be, but if you look around, jump onto Google, find a good MSK podiatrist, because this, in terms of making sure my overall posture, I'm going to be in this for a number of months, I need to make sure everything else isn't getting hammered. I'm not getting secondary issues because of this injury. I would end up an absolute mess if I didn't sort this out. So your trainer is important. I couldn't recommend Hoka's highly enough. I recommend these to patients day in, day out. Obviously, other brands are available. I just find them brilliant because I can say to a patient, I need you to buy a wide fitting, I need you to get an extra wide. The cushioning and things on these are absolutely brilliant as well. So, and great for putting an orthotic in. They really are brilliant. So this part brings us on to what I bought, and I'm going to take this white and purple thing out for now, and I'll show you what that is. So this is what it comes like. This is called the Even Up, and essentially the wedges you can change the height of. It comes with two. You can actually buy more. I've not done that yet, and I will need to, and I'll show you what I've done as a makeshift while I'm waiting on them arriving. It holds on, basically just wraps around your shoe, and you've got a little fastener here that you hold it on. I've not had any issues with it. You can see here it's got a good grip, so you're not going to slide out. The last thing you want is to be falling with this injury and doing a secondary injury. Now, what I found was what it came with wasn't high enough for me. I mean, I am miles off the ground here. So what I had to do is I had to do a makeshift. This actually is a flip-flop. I've literally just stolen the material from a flip-flop, and I've basically wedged it up with that. So that's what I've got in that. So I'll show you how I do this. So I've basically just put this on, okay, into there. And I don't ever take my shoe out of this, so that's what that looks like. Now, I needed this to be more laterally loaded or more laterally positioned for me so that I'm not, and I'll talk you through why I did this. What I would recommend for you at home is just to order more of these. I've actually got more of these coming, they just haven't arrived yet. So I needed something. So you can see this allowed me, with my orthotic and with this, to bring myself up to a much more better posture. I'm not all squinty. I then put my shoe in this, and I basically just will be using these shoes the full duration of this injury. It just slides in, pop your toes in. It is pretty tight. And then from there, get it round the heel, and then you're good to go. That is it. And I've not had any issues with it falling out or any problems that way. Now, you need to make sure whatever you're putting on is loaded up properly. For me, I needed this to be more over to the outside part of the shoe, and that's just because of my posture. That's why I'm saying it's probably worth your while seeing an MSK podiatrist to help you with that. I needed mine to be loaded up more laterally here, because what I didn't want was this possibility of, I basically needed a support on this lateral edge so I'm not getting this inversion sprain. I'm not going to go over my ankle. You need to also be very mindful that this is high. This is a high platform now. So if your balance was not great before your injury, this probably would not be appropriate. So you're in a bit of a different situation there. You're probably looking at maybe having to use some of the other devices that I've got rather than something like this. So this is called the Even Up. The link is down below. It was about 20, 25 quid. Wasn't mega expensive, but you can see how I'm limping about there trying to get back onto that. I don't even go to the toilet in the morning without having my Even Up on. I just wouldn't. It's horrendous. It really is. It just feels bizarre. Make sure clearly you tie your shoelaces properly. This wee bit, the strap goes across. pull it on tight, and it just keeps it all secure. And it is as simple as that. And you can see I'm now level. I mean, it just feels normal. It feels good, but you definitely need to make sure your balance can cope with that. So that's the even up. Some of these devices that I've got over here. Now, this is the iWalk. Again, the link to this is down below. This thing was, oh my goodness, an absolute lifesaver in the first 5 days. I have to say I've not used it since because I've not needed to, because I'm now fully weight bearing. However, your situation might be different. So if you're not fully weight bearing, this might be amazing for you, and I'll show you. So imagine when I was in my cast, what I had to do was I would put my knee in here. Now, the problem I've got, my cast has now got a big air bubble there, so I can't really, if your cast has got the kind of air pump there, you're going to come into a problem. You really don't need the air pump with these casts. If you've got that there, really, you could technically just take that off. They could just be cut off, because you don't actually want to be pumping that up anyway. You're just wanting the restrictive motion. You don't need it to be like locked in tight. You're not going to be pumping this up. So it's just a pain if you've got that. You can get them to the side, but not all of them do. It depends on the type of air boot you've got. I've not used this iWalker since I've been in the cast, because I've not needed to, because I've been in the boot because I come out the cast. But essentially, it grips on to your hips. You then tie this round, or not tie it, basically clips round. So you see here, clips on. You can do it. That's that. So I always used to start with the back one. I would say on a daily basis when I was using this, I probably took it on and off about 20 times. It really was an absolute lifesaver for me. If we can get it on, that is. I've not had it on probably in about a week or two. This bit goes down as well. Obviously, I need to redo the strap there because it's changed, because the boot's bigger than the cast. And then this bit then comes round there, attaches that on, so you see that, and then you then tighten with these loops. So you just pull these down and tighten it on, and it literally is like a limb. So obviously, because I've got this big, I'm taller than I was. That just shows how much taller I am. But essentially, it allowed you to walk about hands-free crutches. This was amazing for when I was total non-weight bearing in a cast, and doing stuff around the house. I could do my laundry. I could go up and down stairs fairly easily. I could tidy, clean, hoover. It was just, you just walked about with it just normally. Now, I need to reset all the settings. It takes a wee bit of getting used to, and coming on and off it. Is it faffy? You kind of get used to it. I'm glad I don't need it anymore. But if you were completely non-weight bearing, honestly, it's worth it. It is quite pricey. It's about £150. I'm in the UK, but I only used that for 5 days, and it was worth every penny, right? Because it allowed me for those 5 days the ability to function. Go to the toilet. I could even go to the toilet with that. It's funky when you're sitting down. So if you sit down with it, it obviously sits up like this. So you need to have something to sit it on. I would usually take it off if I was sitting down. But it did allow you the ability to just go on with stuff, get up and move about. The only thing you need to be aware of is your legs up like this. So you need to be aware that you're not hitting your leg off, stuff at the back. But certainly making a dinner, I've got 3 kids, just doing normal stuff that you have to do. Life goes on with these injuries. That really was a lifesaver. So if you're non-weight bearing, that is amazing. Hands-free crutch. This next little device I use in here. I'm in work. This is a big facility that I'm in, big long corridors. So what I do with this, because what I don't want to be doing is, lots of walking. One of the biggest challenges with this is that I don't want to do my knees in, because I've got no ankle joint dorsiflexion. What you end up doing is you end up hyperextending and stealing that motion from your knees, and that leaves your knees vulnerable to injury. So because you've not got this ability to bend through load the front of the ankle, because it's obviously stopping you do that, your boot is, you tend to hyperextend and lock through the knee. So I'm very aware of that, and sometimes that can be very subconscious. Even though I'm really aware of these things, I still do them. So I try not to walk big long distances with this on. So I use the scooter. So this is a knee scooter, and I literally just scoot about. For me, it's when I am going up the corridor. You know, I want down quickly. You can see it's quite easy to manoeuvre. It's not great in small places. So, you know, if I was you, I wouldn't bother using stuff like this in my house. I just wouldn't. It's not great on hills, really. To be honest, this whole situation, hills are very difficult. You generally will need, I've found any sort of wee incline, I tend to go sideways. Again, because you don't have that ankle joint bend, you don't have that dorsiflexion moment. So you're really like almost like a big rigid statue. And again, it puts the pressure on the knees. So I tend to move sideways and do some side steps. The great thing about, I find, with this as well is it is a wee seat. So if you wanted to go out a walk fairly flat and you're a bit tired, you can sit down. There's breaks. You've got a wee basket, which I find really handy when I'm at work. If I'm carrying something from one end of the clinic to the bottom end of the clinic, and I'm like, my good God, I've got somewhere to put stuff and my hands are free. Absolutely brilliant for that. But it's not, I found this isn't as useful as the iWalk is in and around the house, because it is a bit cumbersome. However, for a crutch, hands-free-ish crutch, it's very comfortable. It keeps, so you can set it up the height, it keeps your hips level, you're looking after your posture, you can just scoot back, you can move places quite quickly. It's actually really good fun. You've got a wee break. I quite enjoy it, and my clients, my patients all kind of have a wee laugh at me. It's good fun. We just have a bit of fun with it. But that, I will use that until I'm out this book, because it just helps me. And for me, as much as I can walk and I'm allowed to fully weight bear on this, I'm aware of the implications of that and how I am possibly aggravating. Well, I know I'm aggravating other joints. So come and sit down. So that is my main recommendations for the tools that I've been using. I did get better handled crutches, but as you can see, I'm not using them. I've just finished a shift at work. I feel good. I feel great. I've not needed my crutches. If I was going, like if I'm going for the hospital appointments, the scooter that we've got here that you can see does fall down to get in the car, but see, to be honest with you, I would just take my crutches. I can't be bothered. But hospitals are big places, so you could use the scooter. It's quite a nice big flat space, so it could be, but it's just more of a faff. It's just, for me, I'm just like, oh, what's the easiest? But if you've not got a lot of upper body strength, crutches might just be a no-go for you. So something like the scooter can work brilliant. The other things that I've been doing, I'll do some of the other modalities that I've been working with. So if you are going through this injury, or you're maybe a clinician, just wanting a wee bit more information on the rehab and the recovery of this injury, I have been doing, because I own the clinic, I've got, I know I'm very fortunate, but I've got magnetotherapy here, so it's like a big magnetotherapy machine. I'm using that at the moment 3 times a week on tissue repair setting for the Achilles tendon, and I'm also using a medical grade 4 laser on my Achilles tendon as well, to help with the healing process as well. So I'll keep you posted on that. I'll also do a video and demonstration and the settings that we're using on that, and all the settings of the machines that I am using, so that you can get a kind of full picture of this whole journey that I'm going through. Rehab wise, I'm not really doing much just yet. That will probably kick in a wee bit more next week and the following week. But I am fully weight bearing, so let's not underestimate the amount of load and the amount of work that actually is happening in that foot anyway as a result of that. I am kind of just scrunching my toes a little bit, so a little bit of intrinsic work through the plantar aspect, so that kind of plantar flexion, can't dorsiflexion at all anyway, it's totally rigid and stuff, and a little bit of inversion and eversion, just a little, like literally just a little bit of motion of the foot inside the air cast boot. I'm literally just moving a little bit like that, because what you'll find is that you'll cramp up because you're not moving. You do get quite a lot of midfoot discomfort, I would call it. It's achy. It just doesn't feel, it's just not nice. And the pressure, certainly on I would say the dorsal aspect of your foot, can be quite uncomfortable. It does just drive you nuts. But so a little bit of motion and movement, just get that little bit of mobility, separating the toes and, moving. So that's the kind of things that I'm doing just now. And a little bit of doming. So inside, if you imagine that, obviously I'm not taking my boot off just yet. I'm just doming my foot inside. So I'm creating a little medial arch. And that's it. I've done a little bit of soft tissue work around the calf, very high into the calf, being mindful of not aggravating anything. So it's still quite early to do some soft tissue work. But basically, if you imagine this with my leg, I'm just going in and just massaging and releasing and just getting into some of the tissues, just keeping the blood flow there. Obviously, we know that DVT is a high risk of with this injury, so deep vein thrombosis, and also just that cramping, like calf cramps. You occasionally will get calf cramps with this. Obviously, please, if you're getting severe red swelling, big calf cramps, that is A&E. That is not something you ignore, because that could be DVT. So if you've got this injury and you get a big hot swollen kind of like really sore calf, that is, or up at your groin, that's medical assistance immediately. But it wasn't that. It was just that the muscles just needed moved and it's not doing anything. I've already noticed a little bit of muscle atrophy. Definitely the legs losing a bit of muscle mass. I can see that already, but there's not really much I can do with that at the moment. So a good long journey for this injury. Yeah, just don't do it if you've done it. It's a very frustrating injury to have. But that's it for now. It's, to be honest with you, I've kind of just got on with it this week. I'm surprised at how much mobility I've got. Actually, when I went into that boot and I could weight bear on it, it was like, yes, this is great. Well, okay, I'll not overreact, but I'm able to do a lot more. I would say that in terms of work, I've had to reduce my hours and my days. I can't cope with my job's quite manual. As a MSK Podiatrist, seeing patients, I can't be up on my feet a long time. I'm probably doing about 5,000 to 6,000 steps a day based on my Apple Watch. That's kind of roughly, and obviously nowhere near where I used to be, but that's just how it is. It's just uncomfortable. You sit down and you can feel your legs swelling up, and you stand up, and the different settings in your rear cast boot, it's different when you're weight bearing and when you're not, and it just gets really uncomfortable. As much as I can when I'm at home, I've got recliner chairs, so I get my leg up and I loosen off the straps and just allow my leg to relax, and that really has it feels amazing just to like open the straps up and go, oh, and just let the pressure come off. And even now I want to stand up, I actually don't want to be sitting too much, because you feel the immense pressure on the dorsal aspect of the forefoot. So it's just very uncomfortable and frustrating. That's my biggest peeve with this injury. So that's it. Next week, what I thought I would do, or certainly over the next few days, what I will try and do is do a video on the other therapies that I've been using, because a lot of that's not spoken about, other options that you've got. So we'll look at laser therapy and we'll look at magnetotherapy. These are two modalities that I am using for me, so I will film them. And I will also film, and next week I start to reduce the wedges. So right now I'm at 30 degrees, that will start to come down from week 3. So I'll show you that process. I'll do it live.